Alright YouTube, what is going on? We are doing another knife review. Today we have a interesting knife from Stedemon Knives. This is their new Shy SHY-V, or 5, obviously. This is an integral Framelock knife. This is actually a knife that was sent to me as part of a pass-around on blade forms. So let's go over the basic stats. You have an overall length of 9 inches. Your blade is 4 inches with a 0.13 inch thickness. CTS 204P, you have a flat ground blade, satin finish, 5-inch handle, about a ½ inch thick handle, and titanium, obviously, weighing in at 4.77 ounces. Pretty good for such a big knife. This is a huge knife. Right hand tip-up carry. Doesn't look like it can be switched. I mean, there is a screw here, but I think this part of the frame has a certain recess for this clip. I don't think you could try to switch it, but I don't think it'll work. I think it's recessed right here. It's not recessed right here, so it won't flip over. So it is right hand only, and it, like I said, is made in China. Obviously, Stedemon knives, and you have a integral frame lock, which is pretty cool. This is their, I believe, first integral frame lock. I could be wrong. This is not the first model variation of this model. There's been many variations of this model of the Shy. It's a Quaken style blade. Has a really nice looking blade. I just was using it actually to cut up some apple and cardboard and stuff, which I'll roll the footage in here shortly of that. But that's why it's got a little bit of markings on it. Nice swedge up here on top. Very well done. Really like this Quaken blade style. These thumb studs really aren't functional, by the way. The detent is just way too strong, and I'm pushing pretty hard on there, and I'm not putting pressure on the lock bar. So they're just more for blade stops than anything. So just keep that in mind, that it's not a thumb stud, it's strictly a flipper knife. The flipper does have some interesting design. It's like almost skeletonized, but not. It's kind of different. Got some nice jimping up there. Nice chamfering on the handles. The anodization's got kind of a bluish, purplish tint to it. They have, of course, my freaking furnace kicks on. They do have a few different variations of the anodization on this knife. So give me 2 seconds here, and I'm going to shut that off. Beautiful thing called a Nest. I can do it right from my phone. Alright, so that should shut off. Alright, there we go. So, anyway. I was saying there's like a green, a gray, just a plain black, a plain titanium, and this bluish, purplish hint. So, I believe it's on stainless steel bearings. I've got no confirmation. Otherwise, the detent's definitely stainless steel. You got a stainless steel lock bar insert, and then your over travel slash, your over travel stop here is built into the pivot, which is pretty cool. And there's an Allen screw here, not an Allen, a Torx screw. So I'm not sure if you could remove that. I don't know why you would. It is an integral, so there's no body screws, obviously, except for right here for the pocket clip. The centering came to me a little to the right, which, I haven't messed with the pivot at all because the action's nice and snappy and smooth, and it just pretty much drops shut on itself, which is great. So the action is very good on it. Like I said, I can't confirm if it's stainless steel or ceramic. I haven't seen any reviews on this knife. And on the pass-around thread, I asked the question to Stedemon, had no response. So there you go. That's kind of fun. So, thoughts on the knife. One thing I will say, I've got a few notes here that I wrote down and I'm going to go over. And as I do that, I'm going to roll in the footage now of the cut test. So the knife's you're just going to see me cutting up some apple, some cardboard. I also used it to cut up some peppers one night for dinner. The blade shape is really good for food prep. I really like that Quaken style blade, and it works really well for food prep. The edge is about 0.0295 behind the edge, so it's not terribly thick and it's not terribly thin. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. I mean, it works well. It cuts well, so that's what you want a knife to do, right? Like I said, the fit and finish is really good on the knife. It's a good job executing the integral lock. The detent is very strong on this. Like I said, it's good for flipping, but those blade stops don't work. I do like the pocket cut quite a bit. It's large, and it's kind of odd that it's not anodized the same color. But whatever, it kind of matches this over travel stop, so that works. But it does work really well, carries very deeply. Let me demonstrate for you. so you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see it just disappears in the pocket. And one thing I will say, for being nearly 5 ounces and a big, long 5-inch folder, it is slim, especially in this dimension. It's not very tall in the pocket. It's going to be, just over an inch tall, which is kind of nice. I like slim knives. So even though it's big and long and it's not heavy or anything, but it's slim because the way the Quaken style blade just kind of, most of the blade is in the handle. You have about a 1-inch tall knife in the pocket, which is nice. The handle is not the greatest for ergonomics. It's not bad. It's just not fantastic. You don't pick it up and say, well, this is one of the most ergonomic knives I've ever held. No, you don't have that feeling. But you also, when using it, don't have a feeling like, oh, there's hot spots. So it's kind of somewhere in between when it comes to ergonomics. Let's see, the things I like: carries light for its size, did well in the cut test, as you can see here in the footage. And the fit and finish is really good, and the action is nice and snappy and good detent. Detent's dialed in. It's very smooth, so it's a fun knife to play with. Now, the negatives, I would say, my biggest thing is this branding on the spine is just atrocious. I'm gonna zoom in a titch here. I realized I didn't have all my lighting on, so I apologize if the lighting's not the best. But you have this huge banner that says Stedemon knives on top. And it's got the Shy 4 or Shy 5 and then the CTS 204P. You don't need to do that. I like the blade. See, that's one thing I like is the blade is sterile, so it's a great looking blade. And I get that they wanted to put their brand on it, and it's got the Stedemon pivot here. But do it like a lot smaller. Just do it in small writing right there. It's like all over the back, so it's kind of tacky, and I'm not a huge fan of that. Like I said, the ergos are good, that handle's not the best for ergos, and that's kind of a negative. Because like I said, it doesn't have hot spots, but it's just kind of it feels kind of blocky in the hand, so not a fan of that. And then I guess the only other negative I'd give it, and this is really nothing to the design, but it's just a little big. I mean, it's nothing that I would carry. It's just a large knife, and even though it does carry well for its size, it's still not something I would carry. Now, that's not really a negative. That's more of a personal preference. I mean, there it is next to the ZT393. You can see it's quite a bit bigger than that. And the Booz Blades, that's a mouthful. Smoke, quite a bit bigger, and the Benchmade 940. I like more of a medium to smaller size knife. Like the 393 is one of the bigger knives I carry, so it is a little large for me to carry. But that's not negative on the actual design of the knife, or that's just more of a personal preference. So overall, I think it's a well executed knife. Now, the last thing I want to talk about that is a negative, I think it's priced a little high for being manufactured overseas. Looking at some other comparable integral locks, you have this is $356 right now on Blade HQ. You have the Wii Knives 702, which is an integral with M390, very comparable. CTS 204P M390 comparable, and it's about $60 less. It's under $300. The Lion Steel SR11 is a little bit less expensive than this, manufactured in Italy. Lion Steel's been doing integrals for a long time. There's a Max Ace integral that's about $317. So I'm trying to get like overseas made integrals, not comparing it to US, because that's not really, the US ones are going to be more expensive. So I think the price is a little high. That's more than I'd want to pay for this knife. I think more around the $300. I think that Wii's a better value. So that's another, kind of another negative. But I think it's priced a little high. But you could see that drop. I could see that dropping in price. One thing about the Chinese manufactured knives is they don't typically have map pricing, and you're going to be able to find a price cheaper somewhere else, and they have sales, and they're going to, you're not going to be like, it's not like the Anthem, the Benchmade Anthem, that's just never going to drop in price. So when you compare it to those knives, it is a better value, but again, overseas made, so we're not comparing them to that. So but that's kind of my final thoughts on the Stedemon Shy 5. I think it's a well executed integral. I think it's got a nice flipping action. I like the blade shape. It works well for food prep and other cutting tasks. But overall, not something I would carry. But it's nice to be able to handle it. It's a well-made knife, and the Chinese market is just banging out just fantastically made knives, and a lot of U.S. makers are behind. And it's, I made a video on this when I did my knife collection and talked about that a little bit. But these guys are pumping out things that are very impressive. The one thing I'm not liking that I'm seeing is the pricing is starting to climb up on these. I mean, hence this one being $350-something bucks. I get an integral knife is a lot more expensive to machine and manufacture, but you're still overseas cost is definitely less. So hopefully we can start to see them, you know, kind of drop down in price a little bit under the $300 mark. But we starting to get some of their knives over $300, and it's, you know, it's kind of the way the market's going right now. So, all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Any questions or comments, leave them down below, and we'll see you on the next one.